of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
He posted another one. Latinos for Trump. This might be a hate crime. Honestly, this might be a hate crime right here, how he got y'all looking. That's crazy. Good luck taking that up with this Department of Justice and no Civil Rights Division, though. Yeah. We tried to tell you about all that. Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. I'm Reese Waters, and this is Street Politics. Now, I come to you today with some bad news. Despite his best efforts, Trump's plan of tweeting out AI videos to avert a government shutdown has failed.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of medbed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. No, I was talking about a whole different AI video. He deleted that one. Yeah, yes, there were more. And by the way, I love that the choices that we're left with are he didn't remember that he hadn't said that and therefore can't remember what he has and hadn't said, or he had to be notified after the fact that putting out a description of a non-existent healthcare plan was a bad idea. Yep, those are your choices. Huh? Oh, did they remove him from office? That washed out of the news cycle in 6 hours.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
That's it. That's it. That's the one I was talking about. Putting out a mocking video of the people you need to negotiate with. Now, here's my favorite part of this. He put the words in Chuck Schumer's mouth. Even the Latinos don't support the Democrats, while Hakeem Jeffries is wearing a faux mustache and sombrero. That's right. That's right. They put the words, even the Latinos, while offending the Latinos. That's what they did. And by the way, they weren't done. They messed with Auntie Maxine too. I will vote for Donald Trump. Y'all better come get him, because he got y'all looking crazy out here. Now he's trying to prosecute the case that the Democrats are looking to get health care for illegal aliens, something that is already illegal. But this is the one thing I can say for you, Latinos for Trump. Y'all not the only ones he got out here looking crazy. Listen to him try and explain it himself.
You're not eligible for the health care subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their health care?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in.
Michael Jordan never played football. So can you explain what you meant by he's the greatest Chicago Bear of all time? You know, we as a country cannot take stock of each and every Chicago Bear. Michael Jordan played baseball and he played basketball, two tremendous sports, and football is also a sport. And it's a sport that where people break the law sometimes. They come in, they break the law, and they're still able to play football. It's a sport that's for everyone. It's a sport that's for everyone, and that everyone includes Michael Jordan. So of everyone, Michael Jordan is the greatest. So therefore, he is the greatest Chicago Bear of all time. Is he on Obamacare? Now, this is no different than the case against Jimmy Kimmel. And why would it be? We have the same principles involved. Good luck trying to argue this case, and I know some of the MAGAs will. Good luck trying to argue this case when the man who's pushing it the hardest can't make it from the beginning to the end of a sentence with any kind of truth and logic. Forget truth. Forget truth is long gone. Logic. Can we even get logic? No, I wasn't talking about the rapper. Here come Hakeem Jeffries. You say rapper, here come Hakeem Jeffries.
The next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
Okay. He going with a little rap beef. Okay, he got a little Nicki Cardi B in him. All right. I see you. You've been on the timeline. You've been seeing all that going back. Can you believe it was her son's birthday and she got time to argue with Cardi B? That's wow. But there is one thing though, Hakeem. From Mehdi Hassan, the question is, what did Hakeem Jeffries have the guts to say to Trump's face? That's a good question. That is a really good question. Although my one pushback, Mehdi Hassan, how do you argue? You heard what he just said, trying to make the case to the public, not having an actual person there calling him on the nonsense that's coming out. You heard what he. How you negotiate with that?
Disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear, bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
He posted another one. Latinos for Trump. This might be a hate crime. See, this might be a hate crime right here, how he got y'all looking. That's crazy. Good luck taking that up with this Department of Justice and no Civil Rights Division, though. We tried to tell you about all that. Fight back, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries' response to Trump. This is real. We ain't forgot. We ain't forgot about none of that. None of this makes us forget about. I got a Post-it note on my laptop. Make sure I do not forget. So that was solid pushback. Could we push back earlier though next time? It didn't have to get to this point.
Well, there's a few things you could say here. Obviously, they don't control the Senate or the House. Obviously, we know that. But we do know that when Republicans don't control the Senate and the House, they do find multiple ways to jam up the system. There is ways for minority party to be much more aggressive. For a start, stop voting for things. Stop voting for everything. Stop this bullshit bipartisanship. This has to end. You've got even my friends over at the Pod Save universe saying, stop all this. Like, you don't vote to fund a government that is rounding up American citizens, right? That is putting troops on the streets. This idea that, if they just fiddle with the bill here and there, we can do a deal and fund the government. Stop voting for things be obstructionist, be negative, be cynical. That's for a start, just in terms of what you can do. Hold your own investigations. Fan out on the media with actual communications people. I said this in a previous chat you and I had. Have some kind of shadow cabinet that's ready to go and respond on various issues at all times. Elevate the good people in your party to speak. Jeffries and Schumer, it's not just about tactics. It's about a worldview. I don't deny that Democrats lack weapons and lack power on Capitol Hill. What bothers me is the mindset, because what happens when they do get power back? They're not going to do anything with it because they're still obsessed with this fake golden age of bipartisanship that never existed. When Chuck Schumer is going on TV and people say to him, what's your plan to stop fascism? And he says, well, I hope Republicans, we're going to win over a few Republicans. Number one, you're not. So you're being super naive. Number two, what a ridiculous strategy to begin with. You have no vision of your own other than to rely on kind of Republicans coming over. Hakeem Jeffries, on the same day yesterday, Pram, you had both of them, the House leader and the Senate leader, and their only strategy was to talk about bipartisanship. In fact, Jeffries said, I think as Jared pointed out in his question, I hope that Republicans will come over to us. Like, that's not a strategy. You're going to hope. If your strategy for stopping fascism is to hope that a few Republicans in Congress find a conscience or a spine, then get the hell out of here. You are not the right leaders for this moment.
Mehdi kind of spitting right there. He kind of spitting right there, because I must ask, how is it that Republicans can be so obstructionist and obstinate when they find themselves in this situation, yet the Democrats are here with our hands up asking for common sense and decency? You know, like me asking my 2-year-old to respect me as he's wiping his diaper all over the living room floor. Like, what are we doing?
With all due respect, it's time for you to wake the hell up, America. I just got off having a conversation with Joe Walsh, and we actually talked about this. And sure enough, I go scrolling real Donald Trump social media, and what do we see? Trump 2028 hats. And who's that sitting with them? That's Hakeem Jeffries. Now let me just ask you this question, and be honest with yourself. If you were in government and you walked into the Oval Office and you saw Trump 2028 propaganda spread across the Resolute Desk for what was supposed to be a bipartisan meeting on the government shutdown, what would you do? Would you walk in and say, "Hey, can you grab me a Coke, please, while we sit here and let you take photos and use us for your propaganda?" Because I would have turned around and walked out. It's one of the reasons I can't get down with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer here, because I got to think that if it was Jasmine Crockett walking into that Oval Office and she saw that crap sitting on the desk, that she would have said, "You know, sir, either you take that crap off or we're not going to have a meeting today." But it seems all the elected Democrats don't have those kind of courage.
Now, that's not to say that everybody hasn't been going hard in the paint. I see you, Jasmine Crockett. You had a week last week. You had a week last. Your usage rate is high. Let's see if anybody else wants. Oh, AOC, I see you.
I think there's two things that are happening at once, and this is something that's very important for people to understand. One, there absolutely is an unprecedented abuse of power, destruction of norms, erosion of our government and our democracy in order to prop up an authoritarian style of governance. That is happening. However, they are weaker than they look. And it is important that we remember that, because what they rely on is the impression of power, the perception of inevitability, in us giving up in advance to say, oh, what's going to happen if I stand up, etc. Nothing's going to happen. They rely on that perception of inevitability and power so that people comply in advance and acquiesce in advance and give up in advance. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is at record levels of unpopularity in his tenure. The Republican House is at record levels of unpopularity. They are underwater across the board, and they know it. And that is causing them to double down in public, but it is backfiring. That is why, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's all of this, they want us to blink first. And we have too much to save. protecting people is too important a task for us to give up before anything even starts. So they may want to send people in, but these National Guardsmen do not want to be turned against their fellow Americans. We're seeing this here in Washington, D.C. It is an insult. Donald Trump is insulting the service members of this country by putting them on these silly tasks that they themselves do not want to be enforcing. And so we have to understand that standing up matters, that our voice matters, to not give in to this cynicism, because that is what they rely on in order to perpetuate this idea that they are that they have total immunity from consequence. They will experience the consequences of this, but we have to be the consequence, which is why we have to stand tall right now alongside everyday Americans who want us to be standing up right now as well.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. Finger licking good special. That's what I'm talking about.
Now, I did mention, even though Trump couldn't make it from the beginning to, I said the end of a sentence, make it to a comma. Let's make it to a comma. I said he couldn't make it to a comma actually prosecuting this case, but that doesn't mean the MAGAs won't try. And you know exactly who signed up for that job.
Today, the president said that he thinks some good things could come from a government shutdown. What are the good things that would come from a shutdown?
Well, the administration has to make some very tough choices. They have to determine at the Office of Management and Budget what are essential services, what are the programs that should be prioritized, you know, personnel decisions, policy decisions. Chuck Schumer has just given the White House unilateral authority to make those permanent decisions about programs that should survive and those that should be eliminated. So he's sort of walked into a political trap on that as well.
The president framed it as a good thing that could come out of this. You're saying it's a tough choice. That's not how he described it.
No, it's both.
Today.
There are good things that could come out of it. If you eliminate wasteful programs that we otherwise would not get Democrat votes to do, that's a very good thing for the taxpayers. But the harm that comes is from the people who need food assistance, medical assistance. FEMA won't be funded, by the way. We're in the middle of our hurricane season. If your health insurance or your flood insurance is lapsed, no new policies, no renewals, none of that can happen during a shutdown. It's real danger for real people. This is not a game.
Yeah, well, the president has previously talked about eliminating FEMA potentially before this shutdown happened.
Y'all want to see a dead body? Huh? Y'all. Oh, FEMA? You said FEMA? Well done. Well done, Caitlin Collins. And you know what? Just because I am a glutton for punishment of Mike Johnson. Huh? You found what on his phone? That was during this interview? Is it? Save that. No, we got some more for him.
We're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the point about giving people who are here illegally health care is not exactly what is in their proposal.
No, it is 100% what their
immigrants
proposal.
who have legal status,
No,
and you're just
Caitlin,
disagreeing on who's eligible.
No,
I looked at it, actually, because I was curious about your argument yesterday.
You should study the CBO's analysis that they just put out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that about the 1.2 million people. You're basically arguing about who has legal status, people who are seeking refuge here or seeking asylum.
No, I'm making sure that we are making sure in our provisions that we signed into law have ensured that health care benefits go only to eligible U.S. citizens.
But
Chuck
as
Schumer's
is federal
proposal.
law.
Damn! Put your glasses back on.
Facts are stubborn. People in the U.S. illegally have never been eligible for Medicare, Medicaid, or ACA credits. Democrats are fighting to restore health funding for the American people, so out-of-pocket costs don't soar. Republicans have no argument, so all they can do is lie, which is something they're able to do quite well when they have a network perfectly suited for it.
Jessica, that letter from the OMB director is essentially a threat that this shutdown happens, you're going to fire people that the discretionary funding doesn't cover.
And Donald Trump made the same threat when he was speaking earlier today as well. He said we can do a lot of really bad things. We can do things that they don't want us to do. And yes, Democrats don't want people to get fired, and Democrats don't want people to lose their health care. But I think the Republican Party is trying to act like they have the upper hand, and they just don't on the merits. First of all, 45% of Americans would blame them versus 32% that would blame the Democrats. And we saw what happens when you give Republicans the votes. We did that in March, and they have governed by and for themselves. They think they don't have to negotiate, when typically on these kinds of things, on CRs, you do that because you don't have the 60 votes to do it.
I hear the polls. I hear what you're saying, but this is kind of simple. You know, this is a plain
but it's not. Because
continuing resolution.
But it's a clean resolution inclusive of these cuts. And there are smart Republicans like a Josh Hawley, even Senator Thune has said that he's been concerned about this. When you look at what's going to happen with 114% hikes on these ACA premiums, that affects Democrats just as much as Republicans. And there are a lot of Republicans on Obamacare.
Hey, Fox News, y'all got to get Jessica Tarloff off there. Nah, because she got y'all looking bad as Latinos for Trump. Yeah, sombrero and everything.
Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance
until the end of the year. So you fund the government.
Enough
and
with
then you
this.
and then you
But
and then you argue the point.
Who's to say that they're going to sit down and negotiate with us afterwards? They came out of that meeting. Trump is posting racist AI videos saying, I don't need to deal with them at all. Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance are lying about what Democrats are asking, saying we want to fund health care for illegals, which is impossible and doesn't happen. It is impossible. They're saying they want to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals. They took $137 billion out and then gave us back $50 billion and said that it's our problem.
Now, Jessica Tarloff is absolutely spitting here, but at the end of the day, they've been extremely successful putting words that don't go together in succession and getting people to vote red. So let's see exactly who's winning this battle of public opinion. Well, if you look at that, according to Data for Progress, Navigator, Strength in Numbers, Rasmussen, YouGov, and Morning Consult, it's the Republicans by 25 for Data for Progress. It's looking bad out here. It's looking bad out here.
I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud.
Every bit as bad as appearing before your own military and asking for applause. Like that's how bad it's looking out here. And when the ramifications of a shutdown start being felt, that just gets worse. We got significant EPA activities would continue, of course, define significant. State Department plans stateside furloughs while keeping foreign services open. Most core FDA missions would continue. NIH research would stall with patients immediately affected. The CDC plans widespread furloughs. Air traffic controllers will keep working because they're among essential workers. However, there could be staffing issues. Sounds like delays. FEMA fallout could block some new mortgages. Medicare and Medicaid payments will continue with likely delays. Oh, and would you look at that? Homeland Security, immigration enforcement would proceed mostly as is. And if you want to know what our priorities are as a country, you have Medicaid and Medicare payments delayed. You have air traffic controllers unpaid, but ICE is funded. Yeah, but ICE, we make sure, I mean, the people can't eat, but let's just make sure they can still roam around masked and do all the, yeah, that's what we got. And you wonder why, at a time like this, the Republicans are being blamed. Well, if you take a look at this little map, which shows you the federal workforce by location, we get a pretty blue Texas, Florida, Georgia, Ohio. You know, it's almost like Republicans are people too and use these services too. You knew that? You knew that? Nobody told me nothing. And you know what? There's another pretty significant reason why Republicans are being blamed. Because of who they've decided to line up behind.
told you we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants to shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that.
You smoke crack, don't you? You smoke crack, don't you?
Who says that out loud? Who says that? Who says that out loud? This is your great negotiator? This your great negotiator, the man that just said all of that out loud to everybody. So if cuts come, not only that, if you are in fact a recipient of a cut, he basically done wrote your lawsuit for you. This your man's? This your man's? We don't need to wonder what these meetings with Putin and Netanyahu sound like. You know what I mean? This who y'all sent in there. This who you hoping to bail you out. Farmers and everybody. That's him?
For so long, this country has been basically built on the backs of our farmers and our ranchers. The President Trump, has been the most pro-farmer president, perhaps in our lifetimes, perhaps in history.
Hello? You can't make it tonight. Why not? I made reservations and everything. Well, I can do things while you at home, like cheat and go on the hub. I can do things that you won't like. Oh, you on your way over? Okay, that's what I thought. Huh? You said you're gonna collect your things. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. You know what? September was a month to remember. The highest views we've seen all year. I know. September. Do you remember? Huh? Do I know the lyrics? I don't even think they know the lyrics. Wrong. And they told me September was a low month for YouTube. Kids are going back to school, parents are getting back into the swing of work. Not on my channel. It's for that reason I'm always going to remember September. Huh. My anniversary was in September? It was, wasn't it? I'm gonna have to get rid of this section. As I was saying, September, what a beautiful time for love. It's also a beautiful time for merch, for that special someone in your life. I have seen your questions about the merch link, and it is up at reesewaters.com. However, we are undergoing some changes as we're in the process of getting it linked directly to the YouTube. So pretty soon you'll be able to see the merch right there on my page. So be on the lookout for that. And while we're talking merch, I want to send a shout out to Tracy, who sent us this dope photo and her discouraged, depleted, but never defeated t-shirt. And I also want to give a quick shout out and a happy birthday to Melva and to her daughter, as well as my man Dwight and Daryl over at the barbershop. And yeah, you can tell I just came from the barbershop because I'm shooting during the daytime. Yeah. I want you to see that, just all the crisp I want you to see, because when I get fuzzy, I start shooting at night. And then once I pass 2 weeks, I just become a faceless channel.